Hello everyone, this is Jürgen Stark from Music Graphics International. Today I thought I'd show off a particular device that I've been using for several years now, specifically for me for the work in scoreboards. That's how I became interested in it. It's a Logitech G600 gaming mouse, so really it's the device developed with gamers in mind, people who like to play computer games and like to add additional functionality into their mouse so they don't have to reach for the keyboard when they're playing their games. But of course, you can use this mouse for all kinds of other purposes as well. I think I said it's a Logitech G600 gaming mouse. And one thing you notice straight away is that there are 12 buttons here on the side. Each one of them can be programmed to perform a different function. That could be a single keystroke, or a sequence of keys, or it could be a text string. You could launch applications with it, open particular windows, whatever you want to program into it, you can do with these buttons. Rotate the mouse a little bit like so. You can see that they have a certain design to them in sort of a wavy pattern that makes it very easy with your thumb to find specific buttons that you want to access in order to perform a certain function. 12 different buttons up here. Then on the mouse itself, you have on the side here sort of a switch key that you can also program to perform whatever it is you want to do. This one, you can hold it down while you click something else, for instance. And then, of course, it has your standard mouse button right here and the right mouse button. A scroll wheel at the top that you can also press for an additional button click, and you can also click to the left and to the right. I use that for moving the screen left and right, or for nudging items left and right in scroll without having to reach for the keyboard. And then it has two additional buttons here that can also be programmed to perform different functions. So you see in total you have the 12 on the side, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, essentially 20 different button functions on this mouse. Now that may seem ridiculous, but once you start working with it specifically in Scorebox, you'll soon discover how much time this device really saves and how much easier it makes it for you to work within Score, because a lot of things where you have to constantly reach from the mouse to the keyboard back to the mouse again, you can now do directly from the mouse, and that saves a lot of time and makes your work a lot more efficient. So again, this is what the device looks like, and now I'm going to show you the control panel and give you a demonstration of how I use it in Scorebox.
Alright, moving right along, we're now in the control panel for the Logitech G600 gaming mouse. And as you can see, there's a home button down here that shows you the general areas of the mouse, the side buttons, these controls, these controls. And if you want to assign specific functionality to your various buttons on the mouse, you select this particular function, and you have the markup of all the buttons on the side and all the button clicks on the top. Notice up here that there's different profiles. You can define different profiles, have the mouse do different things depending on the application that you're working in. And the Logitech gaming mouse software automatically recognizes which program you're in and then switches to profile to the profile relevant to that particular application. So you'll see, for instance, that I've defined a profile for Microsoft Word right here. I've also defined one for Acrobat right here, for Notepad++, and then for Scorebox. You don't need to activate them again. It's automatically recognized and switched over to the profile whenever you activate a window of an application that matches the profile that you've defined. For me, the heaviest use of my gaming mouse is in Scorebox. So you see I have various kinds of commands programmed into the mouse for that particular mode. Now you notice on the left is a list of commands. You can scroll down and see all the commands that you've defined. There are some default functions in there. You can remove them. I've just left them in. And then there's some that I've created myself. Let's say, for instance, you wanted to enter a piano indication on staff 1 at position P3 equals 100. I'm just making this up as an example. You can define that as a keystroke combination that will then be automatically piped into the score program whenever you push the particular mouse button to which you assign that key sequence. So let's create one. We click on the plus button on command. This is going to be a multi-key function, and then you can say start recording your keystrokes. So I type P1 100, enter. That would put a piano sign on staff 1 at position 100 and would leave it selected for editing. The key sequence is recorded, and then you give it a name. I'd say P on staff 1 at 100, for instance. There you go. So we have this command now defined. Let's say you want this to be activated whenever you push this particular button down here. You simply take it, drag it over there, and assign it to this particular button. Now whenever you push that button, that particular sequence will be typed into Scorebox. Note down here that there are different modes. Let me explain what that's all about. You'll see on the display that that there is this side button right here on the mouse. There's a left mouse button, the right mouse button, and then there's an extra one that you can click on the side. That's called the G-shift button, and with that you can actually switch between different modes. In essence, you can triple all of your key functionality that's assigned in the mouse. So you could program up to about something like 60 different keystroke combinations depending on the mode that you're in, which I think that would be impossible to memorize, but the functionality is there. Now in Scorebox, on these different modes, I've essentially assigned the same commands into each mode. Right now I had just assigned this one in the white mode. You can change the illumination. You can see what mode you're in the mouse by looking at the illumination of the buttons. So here the buttons will be yellow, here they would be green, and here they would be white. So just by looking at the color you could see what mode you're in. Okay. So the P on staff 1 at position 100 is in the white mode. Let's assign it to the yellow mode as well. Right there, and then finally to the green mode. Like so. That's how you enter a new macro, a new command to your mouse. Obviously you can also call up macro express macros if you're working in Scorebox and you have a particular macro that you like, and you activate it, for instance, with a hotkey. Well, then you just assign the hotkey combination to a particular button, and then the macro express macro is going to be called up. And that will work like this. You would, if it's a hotkey, you don't use the multi-key, but you use the keystroke function, and then let's say you say Control Alt Shift 5, something like that. See, that will be the hotkey definition, and then you give it some kind of a name, blah blah, and then you have a new command that you can assign to the mouse, and it would call a particular macro, for instance. But I don't want to do that right now. So let me show you now how I actually work with this in Scorebox. So here we are in Scorebox, and these are instrumental parts that I'm working on at the moment. And I'm proofreading with a full score on my desk, and I go line by line. And usually the way I do it is I point with my left finger at a particular point in the score, and with the mouse then I move along the screen, so I'm always synchronized as to what I'm looking at. So the mouse is constantly in my hand as I move across from measure to measure. Now, you know that if you want to go up, ordinarily now, you'd have to leave your mouse, which I'm doing now, and I go to the keyboard and I press the up arrow key to shift the display up. Okay, this I'm doing from my keyboard. But I've had to leave the mouse, and now I have to go back to the mouse. So the up and down arrows I've assigned to the two buttons that are on top of the mouse. So if I want to move up, I simply, from the mouse, push this button and it moves the display up and down. I can also use the tilt wheel by moving, moving things left and right, which is essentially the left and right arrow function assigned to the mouse. This means that, for instance, if I have an item I want to nudge to the left, let's say I select this one here, and by the way, I have a zoom to function also built into the mouse. It zooms to it, and I can now use the mouse key to move the item left or right. The escape function is also built into the mouse. Actually, I killed that when I changed the assignment because I made an assignment for piano on staff 1, a piano indication on staff 1. Let me run that particular. And now on the mouse, I push that button that I've defined, and this is what happens. You see, it automatically places the piano on staff 1 at position 100 and leaves it selected for editing. That's not a very useful macro, so I'm going to change that assignment again. But also note that I have a delete key assigned to the mouse, but rather than having to go up to the keyboard again, I simply press this particular button on the mouse and the item disappears. Again, I select this here. On my mouse, I zoom in on that particular item. If I want to remove the articulation sign, I press another button on my mouse, like so, and it's disappeared. And now it's back again. I'm going to switch back over to the Logitech control panel and reassign my escape function to this particular key. I don't know actually if that's visible on the video right now, but we'll see. Like so. Save the profile. Go back into Scorebox. Okay. I have another functionality built in if I want to get out of zoom, but zoom to mode, but stay at the staff where I am. I press another button on my mouse and it moves me there. So now I move up, and I'm at the bottom of the score. I don't want to save any of those changes, so I'm just going to reload that file. So I've scrolled up and down on my mouse, and now I want to go to the next file. Now normally you would type NX, and then you have to press the home key, and there you are, and now I go back to the mouse again. But instead I can do NX and NB directly from my mouse. So I go back to the previous file by pushing a particular button on my mouse, and actually now to go to the next file, I've built into the sequence also to push the home key. So without leaving my mouse, I go to the next file and automatically go to the top of the display. That goes like this, and then I move up and down whatever I want. I have another hotkey that brings up my Scorebox menu, like so. So I can select any of my macros that I have a macro express, which I'm not going to do right now. I want to show you a macro that I've defined, and just to give you another example. If I wanted to add a crescendo hairpin to this note, I type Control comma, and it puts in a hairpin, and then the right end is selected, so that I can adjust it easily. And that's how I enter in a hairpin directly into the score. Now that's a macro express macro. I could assign that to a score button mouse, and Logitech mouse button, and then this particular element would be put in. So you can, depending on what you're doing, when which commands you're activating frequently, you can just easily reassign functionality into your mouse, depending on the circumstances. So I cannot recommend this mouse highly enough. It makes my work a lot more efficient. It prevents me having to do repetitive stress on my arm by going back and forth between the mouse and the keyboard all the time. So it's more ergonomic, and it speeds my workflow tremendously. I hope you've enjoyed this demonstration, and I'll see you next time.